Welcome to the Magnetic Dog Training Podcast, Episode 4. I'm your host, Lewis Magnicari. Today we're going to talk about frustration, and it is 10:15 a.m. as I am recording this on a beautiful Friday in New York City, and just 3 hours ago, I had a walk and train with a wonderful dog named Maury. It's Friday. I've had a great week. Got excited to go pick up Maury. It was our third walk and train inside of her program. The first 2 days had went great, and just super excited to just another training session, build that momentum. But when I went to pick up Maury, as I had the previous 2 days, she came to the door much more excited than usual, and she was jumping all over me in a very aggressive manner, which I expected. This is one of the big things we're working on, and I got her under control pretty quickly. But when I looked at her owner after I had gotten her calmer, her owner looked really dismayed, almost as if her dog had bitten me instead of just jumped on me. So I asked her owner, I was like, how's everything going? How's Maury doing? And she said that yesterday Maury was a complete terror in public. She was jumping all over other people. She had no control. It was a disaster. I don't know why I got this dog. All of the things that we say when we're in the middle of trying to get our dog in a better behaved place. So I listened and I talked to her about the process, and then I took Maury and we started on our way through the walk and train. As I started walking Maury, I thought of the interaction, and I actually started to get a little bit down on myself and a little bit frustrated that what happened yesterday happened, even though very common, actually expected. It was only the third day I was working. Training is not a miracle. It takes time. But I got frustrated nonetheless because I thought to myself that maybe I didn't put expectations out the correct way for the owner, or maybe I could have done something different, or a million other thoughts that go through my mind when I'm trying to help a person and their dog. So now I'm walking Maury, we're starting to train, and I'm starting to get frustrated at my thoughts, at the interaction I first had when I went to pick Maury up. I start to point my frustration at Maury. Isn't that what we love to do when we get upset or frustrated or angry? We love to point it somewhere other than ourselves. I know I do. And hey, there's Maury. So I start to point my frustration at her. I start to get frustrated that she's pulling, even though that's exactly what I'm there to work on with her. I start to get frustrated that she's not sitting as quickly as I would like when I ask her, even though we've only had so much practice. I start to get more and more frustrated, because now that I've pointed my frustration at Maury, who's just doing her best, all of a sudden there are more things to get frustrated at. Isn't that the problem with getting frustrated? It starts to form a terrible spiral of getting frustrated at our dogs, which then makes us want to put more pressure on our dogs, which then in turn makes them not want to listen. And then we spiral and spiral. We put pressure on our dogs, they don't want to listen, which makes us want to put more pressure, which makes them want to listen less, until all of a sudden we're a spectacle in the middle of some public place, not even understanding how we got there. But lucky for me, I have a lot of practice of snapping out of this because I am the professional, and I do pride myself on being a leader for the dog I am working with. So let me tell you some of the things I do to snap out of that spiral, to stop being frustrated, to get back on track so I can be the leader my dog needs me to be. So I'm with Maury, I'm getting frustrated, and I have to snap out of it. It's the first thing that we have to do. If we are stuck in the situation, if we are spiraling out in frustration, in anger, in impatience, the first thing we have to do is get out of that spiral. We have to start pulling up as if we were in a plane and getting out so that we do not crash and burn. And there are two big things that help me get out of the spiral, to help me snap out of the situation. The first one I think is going to be the most practical for you. It's looking at your dog and starting to practice understanding their attitude. And the great news is you do not need to be a professional. You just need to have a objective eye. You need to be able to look at your dog and say, are they happy to be here? Are they generally trying to take my direction? Or are they trying to go somewhere else in their own mind because I am a raging, frustrated psycho. And I think that's the first thing that happened with me and Maury. All of a sudden, whether it was her pulling or not sitting, all of a sudden I just looked at her and I said, "What is Maury's attitude?" The answer was obvious. It was, she's clearly not having a good time. She's confused. She does not want to be here. And that is the first thing that snaps me out of the spiral almost every time. I would say to start doing this at all times so that you could start to practice of just looking at your dog and starting to think of where their mind is, what emotions are they feeling, what is their attitude, so that as you practice this, it starts to become second nature, so that in these very challenging moments, it's not the first time you're trying to do it. Because if it's the first time, it's not going to happen. So that's the first thing I do. I try to grab onto that moment where I see the dog and I'm like, this isn't good. After that, it creates enough of a gap that I could pause and I have at least a few seconds to not be frustrated. And what I immediately do there, which comes from a meditation practice that I try to do as often as possible, is I take a breath. I literally just stop. I take a big, big inhale through my nose and a big exhale through my mouth. And doing those two things, letting the dog tell me that something is wrong with this picture, understanding that I'm the one creating the picture, and then using that small gap to take a breath, to reset myself, is what I immediately do to snap out of the situation. Once I've snapped out of the situation, now I have to figure out what I'm going to do next. This is where I want to break away from my experience with Maury and start to think of where you are with your dog, because it's completely different for me in a walk and train where I have an agenda, I have a plan, and I also have a depth of knowledge and experience of what to do, what you're doing when you get frustrated with your dog in a situation. So let's talk about that. There are two things you can do. You could change the situation or you could change your expectations. If you are in a situation where you are feeling yourself getting too frustrated, about to go overboard, one of the best things you can do is just change the situation. If something is going horribly wrong on a walk, it might be best to just cut the walk short, go inside, and think about what's going on for next time. If you're in a public place, it's the same thing. Maybe it's time to just go home. Sometimes changing the situation is the best thing you can do. I do this on my walk-in trains, and while I don't just bring the dog home because I have the dog for a set amount of time, in the case of Maury, I immediately change the situation from working on leash manners and loose leash walking to going to the park and working on recalls and working on play. A completely different picture. I changed the situation and immediately my frustration died down. I was able to reset. I was able to think about what was going on, and the rest of the walk and train went completely different. So often changing the situation is a great thing to be able to do. You could also change expectations. If your dog is not listening and it's making you frustrated, it could be very beneficial to change what you're asking them to set them up for success. So instead of them failing and you getting frustrated, they're succeeding and you have something to praise. This also has the added benefit of then your dog wanting to work with you. If your dog is doing things and then you praise those things, it's highly likely that your dog is now going to want to listen. And once you have a dog that listens, then maybe you can then increase the challenge to back to what you were originally asking and see what your dog can do. But if you're asking your dog to do something and they're not doing it, it's on you to change the expectations, not get frustrated. And this also sometimes leads into a harder conversation. Are you getting frustrated in the same situation? Are you day in, day out going into a situation where you know you're going to be frustrated or you know you're going to be angry or upset? Because if that is what's going on, it's not about frustration. It's about understanding that you have a skill gap, not just having a bad day. You're going into situations where your dog is behaving in a way that frustrates you and you don't know how to solve it. And in these situations, you need to reach out for outside help because obviously you don't know what to do. And that's perfectly okay. That's why there is a $1 billion plus professional dog training industry. We all face situations in all different areas of our life where we need help. So that is where you want to stop avoiding the problem, stop accepting frustration, and instead say, there is a solution. I just need to find the right person to help me. Because while frustration is absolutely part of owning our dogs, of course it's a part of living our lives, the difference is that when it comes to our dogs, it is not fair for our frustration to travel down the leash and affect our dog negatively. That is not good leadership, it's not fair, and it's definitely not the relationship any of us want to have. It's not about being perfect. It's more about having a plan before you need one. It's about knowing your warning signs. It's about practicing breathing. It's making sure that you're doing what you need to do so that your dog is put in the best position possible. That's your job at the human end of the leash. Hope everyone found this beneficial. Hopefully next time you get frustrated, you can come back to what I just discussed. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm on social media, Magnetic Dog Training, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Facebook. Looking forward to bringing you the next one. Hope you have a great rest of the day with your dog.